Hey, what's up, y'all? And of course, welcome back to another Alternative Factuals video. I already told you about this whole hiatus thing, so occasionally I will take breaks, but then there'll be some times where I feel like, I want to talk about a subject matter based on either something I've seen or a comment that was made on a previous video that I think probably should be addressed, or at least something I feel should be talked about a little bit more frequently. But before we dive into any of that, please be sure to like, share, and of course, subscribe, leave your comments. Be sure to stick around, watch the older videos, and also watch out videos that are going to be coming out when I decide to kind of officially come back from this particular hiatus. And without further ado, let's kind of talk about this subject matter. This video I want to focus on, you can see it in the title, why is it so difficult for not only comic books but also movies and comic book related movies to really kind of hone in and write really good black characters. And I want to chalk most of it up to simply not having enough people, or having someone who's writing these characters who have a foundation in the experiences of being black. Now, let me say this. Now, I don't care what anyone says, no matter where you're raised, your background, being a black person, your ethnic background, your ethnic experience is still valid. Some of our experiences are going to be different because from state to state, from city to city, and even depending on where you live at and the type of environment you're in, your upbringing might vary a little bit. But there are some universal features that we know exist within the black culture that pretty much almost all of us can agree on, and I'm pretty sure no one's going to really argue with me in that department. However, when I say we don't have enough people who are able to really kind of talk about the black experience, who have experience in living in that lifestyle, I'm mostly referring to the writers when they're writing these characters. I'll give you a prime example. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard me say this. I'm pretty sure a few of you probably have said this before, or probably heard other people say this as well. When you're writing black characters, you don't always have to focus on the struggle of being black. I get it. It is something that's very prevalent, very prominent in media, as well as an experience that a lot of us seem to share when it comes to systemic racism and all that stuff. Sure, you can talk about it. It deserves to be talked about. It does have a time and a place and should be addressed at one point or another. But that is not the only story that black people have to tell. For example, the movie that came out on Netflix, what was it? The Harder They Fall, for example, is a prime example of how you can write a good story with black characters and kind of do it in a way that doesn't feel like they're trying to force not necessarily just simply an agenda on you, but also trying to force a concept onto you. It was just a good old-fashioned Western revenge story. Simply someone going after somebody else because person B did something to person A, and then the whole point of the movie is for person A to get even with person B, and the whole story is just getting from the beginning, middle, and then the end, and then finding out at the end why the person B did that thing to person A. It doesn't feel like, hey, they're black characters, oh, we're slaves, oh, we this. Yes, we know it exists during a point in time when, in Westerns specifically, when it comes to that particular time period, cowboys or cowhands were actually very prominent or heavily associated with people of color, black people. But it's a very misconception too that white people were identified as cowboys or cowhands. For the most part, they weren't. That was something that was referred to other black people, but I'm not here to give you a history lesson about that. So what makes it, like I said, very interesting is simply the fact that it's a very simple story. Everyone in the cast, the main cast, is black. Everyone who's participating in the movement of the story, the progression of the story, is black, and it doesn't feel like they're only telling you a black struggle. That doesn't even actually really pop up in the story at all. It's mostly, like I said, just a revenge story. So people being able to write stories about black people with black characters without only having to focus on black struggles, black problems, is something I think a lot more writers need to become more skilled at and have an understanding of who we are as black people. We don't just, follow certain particular stereotypes. This especially applies mostly to comics because even though they may have, kind of cast away the way that they used to draw people of color and black people in comics, they still have some stereotype related features in terms of how they portray us and how we communicate with each other that I think they don't quite understand the nuances of our slang. And no matter what state you're from, we have a way of complimenting each other, like, I'm trying to be like you, bro. Nah, bro, I'm trying to come up like you. Like little small things like that will kind of make the story feel more authentic, more catered to the black community without feeling like there's a black message to it. and every story does not have to feel that way. And I think that's the reason why in comic books, let's say for characters like Blue Marvel, for example, his introduction, even though it was written by Kevin Graveau, who he himself is black, which is fine, he wrote the story kind of existing how, like, you know, he was a character who came up in the 60s and the government was like, nah, we don't want you to be a hero, because people found out that he was black and they were afraid of him. They was afraid of a black man who was that powerful, could easily kind of bring the United States down because of the prejudice that they were kind of giving or kind of allowing to exist within the United States towards black people. And that's fine for an origin story, you know, that's the reason why he was in a situation that he was in. But I think also something that's very prominent when it comes to characters like Black Panther, for example, where they introduce his character and even his character, his father existing too during a point when racism was at an all-time high. Even a lot of his stories circles a lot around the ideas of being black and how black people around the world have experienced prejudice, but T'Challa hasn't, his father hasn't, Wakanda's never been conquered. And that's, like I said, that's great for a foundation story. But when you're trying to tell a story that's compelling not only to black people, but to other people you want to draw into the story, you don't always want to shove that message down their throat. Just tell an overall good story. And I'm not saying all the stories are structured like that when it comes to Black Panther or Blue Marvel or Luke Cage. Even though Luke Cage, most of his stories kind of do follow that format in one way or another. Just tell a good story. Tell a good story, and then every once in a while you can bring up issues in the story, but it shouldn't just be something that's in your face. It should be woven into the story to such a point where people have resonated so well with the character. It's like, wow, why on earth would they do that to a person who just saved them? A superhero, or let's say a supervillain, for example. Even if it's a villain, black people can be villains too, and black people can be heroes. Black people exist in multiple degrees of life, and I think if people really mastered the nuances of being black and being able to tell those stories well, efficiently, effectively, and doing it in a way where they don't have to overwhelm the audience with this political message of equality all the time, but still doing it in a way that draws people in, telling a good story, and then people can kind of get on board with the message without it being so overbearing, then we're going to get to a way better state of comic books and movies for black heroes going forward if we all just took a little effort to write better stories and focus more on the character development, more of the movement of the stories, and less on this huge, massive political message, which I think is necessary from time to time, but not all the time. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.